Hi, I'm Stephanie Valinsky, Deputy Director at the Illinois Supreme Court Commission on Professionalism. Welcome to Reimagining Law, where we are exploring how legal professionals are adapting the delivery of legal services to meet the needs of today's consumers. I'm joined today by David Jaffe, Associate Dean of Student Affairs at American University Washington College of Law, and Janet Stearns, Dean of Students at University of Miami School of Law. David and Janet, thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
Nice to see you, Stephanie.
Good to see you too. So this obviously has been a very, law school semester like no other. And as we move into 2021, what have been the biggest challenges and lessons learned from COVID-19?
Sure. I'll field that one, Stephanie. I would say that the biggest challenge that I've been seeing over time is really it's getting students to seek help when they need it. It's perhaps not significantly different than the before times where we've had issues with students like that. Our students as a law student breed tend to be type A personalities. They're go-getters, they're overachievers. And as part of that, they typically don't think that they need help, or that if they do that, they're the only ones who need it. And so they're afraid to seek it. We have additional challenges now in that we're not sure from time to time whether students are actually in class, right? We're having issues with video on, having flexibility around video for students in particular circumstances, flexibility around participation and things of that nature. So it's even more of a challenge right now for us to know whether our students are there, and if they're not there, whether they're not there because they're struggling. We're hearing a lot about family issues, about personal issues around COVID, about financial circumstances, childcare, all of those things going on. But at its core, we need to know that our students are seeking help before they get to near crisis or at crisis, and then it becomes really difficult to help them to get out of that.
For sure. And, as you're talking there, you both really focus a lot on law student well-being and have served on, many ABA committees that promote well-being across, the entire legal profession. So how can, law schools and legal organizations, both better support their community's well-being needs in 2021?
Well, Stephanie, yeah, this is the moment as we're looking at 2021 where I think David and I are really committed to thinking about structural change. What can we learn from this moment and how can we use it for good? So I want to focus on three things that we're particularly focused on right now. One is looking at substance use and mental health education for all law students. We've been talking about this for a long time. How can we program in orientation? How can we program in professional responsibility classes so that everybody gets some basic exposure to resources? But we actually are pushing forward and trying to advocate for the ABA accreditation rules to be changed so that possibly this kind of education would be required for all law students as part of their required curriculum. And so this is a really big item for us as we are looking at 2021. The second thing that we've been working on for quite a while is trying to make more mental health first aid education available. And this is an 8-hour course that now is actually available in a partly virtual platform, so that faculty, frontline administrators can know a little bit more about recognizing the signs of what's going on with our students and when we need to triage and refer to mental health professionals. As we know, sadly, suicide is up at this stressful moment. I myself have seen many of our law students this year who have lost a close family member or friend to suicide this semester. So we need to be recognizing these signs and knowing how to help and support our students. And thirdly, I would say David and I have been working hard nationally at looking at the role of the character and fitness questions that the bar is asking at the time of bar admission, and trying to make sure that those questions are not discouraging students from getting the kind of help they need or creating more stigma. So I think this is a critical moment right now where we need to continue this advocacy around the country. I did look, and I can see that Illinois, I think, is really one of the better states in terms of not asking overly intrusive questions. But I think we need to look very hard at this question across the country and make sure that we're doing everything possible to support our students.
So with virtual classes and work environments, we aren't seeing each other as often or at all, really, which makes it difficult to, observe, fellow students or colleagues who are struggling with either mental health and substance use issues. So, I know you talked a little bit about the mental health toolkit. How can lawyers and law students, virtually kind of identify these struggles in others, and what are the key signs to really look out for?
Sure. So I'd say first on the law school and the law student side, I continue to believe that monitoring, keeping track of attendance is actually critical, particularly with respect to what's going on now. This is not an ABA standard question at this point in time or a metric question for the school, but students who are missing classes have real problems going on. They're not just blowing off law school. Law school is too serious for the students not to be learning the material and being there. So we're encouraging our faculty to be checking attendance, whether they're doing it in a chat box or have something else separate set up. We're not asking faculty to compel video on, again, for reasons I alluded to earlier, but that is a good way to know if a student is engaged. If you are able to check around, particularly in smaller classes, it's obviously harder to do with a large class, but if video is on, you can be looking at facial expressions. Does the student seem to be engaged? Are they focused when you're having actual exchanges with them? For the more sensitive, aware faculty member, do you see or hear signs of fatigue or sadness or things like that? Again, it's risky. You don't want to make assumptions about a student, but if you are concerned, you certainly can be checking in with your dean of students or a relevant individual, and then have them look for an opportunity or a way to get back in that student. We at the Washington College of Law have re-implemented it, and we're borrowing an idea that we took from another law school. We're in the middle, we're at the end of the semester, but we've been working on doing outreach to every first year student. We have a very large school, large student population here, but we are sending emails to each student and saying, your name just came up, was the next one at random. Please set up a calendar time to meet with us. And some of these meetings are 15 minutes long, and the student is doing great and appreciative of everything we're offering in this virtual environment. But from time to time, we're getting a student who either breaks down or shares, I'm glad you reached out because I'm actually struggling with X or Y or Z. And again, it's a student who might not have done it on their own, but now that we've had the opportunity to meet with them in this one-on-one setting, they're willing to confide a little bit, and we're able to work with them either directly, providing resources, sometimes directing them towards accommodations, things of that nature. I think in the professional lawyer environment, some of these things are similar. Obviously, you're not taking attendance, but certainly in meetings and things like that, you can try to gauge a sense if your colleagues are less engaged than they've been prior to that. If you're engaged with colleagues in social media, are they engaging less in social media, which might be a sense that they're withdrawing to some degree. Certainly, an inability to focus if assignments are not being turned in, and that would be the same in the law school and certainly the professional environment. That's probably an indicator that something else is taking place with those individuals. But for me, the main takeaway, it's about communication. And anytime you have the opportunity, whether you're in a supervisory capacity or just a peer, a friend, a colleague, to be able to reach out to individuals and just ask, are you doing okay? It's a fair question, particularly given what's going on now.
Oh, thanks. That's very useful. And it's a simple question, but can definitely mean a lot for sure. As we talk about kind of what are some things to kind of, help our own well-being, I kind of just, I recently talked about, just the basics that I need right now is just, sleep, exercise, and eating well. But besides those basics, what are some other kind of, positive habits that lawyers, law students can adopt right now, and things that they can kind of like habits that'll help, habits that'll stick, especially, as we enter colder winter months. I know, Janet, you don't have to worry about that as much, but David, you and I do.
It's gotten cold in Florida too.
Okay.
Welcome to Miami, but thank you for asking, Stephanie. I think I'm naturally a glass half full kind of person, but I think this moment is really calling out to us to look deep in our heart and really focus on the gratitude, focus on those fundamental things, our health, our families, the things that, food on the table that really we can be positive about. I think this is a moment when mindfulness practices, yoga, exercise, David's out there running his 5Ks every day, but the things that we can do to make ourselves feel good and sustained are incredibly important. And I have been talking some about my new favorite hashtag, which is gifts of the pandemic. What can we take of this moment that truly is a gift? More time with family, more time to really focus on identifying what's really important in our lives and supporting those things, and recognizing that some of the things from our pre-COVID life are maybe things that we don't want back when this pandemic is over. So I myself, as I'm turning into the holidays and the new year, I'm very focused on trying to stay positive about the gifts of this particular moment.
I love that. And Stephanie, if I could add one thing, and I've got one prop. This is a Post-it that I keep on my computer, both at the office and at home. And it just simply says hard stops. Not something that we used to spend a lot of time thinking about, but for those of us who are working from home, the walk from our office to our kitchen to our family is a 10-second walk, which means it's very easy for us to make the excuse, well, I could work at this a little bit longer. I'll be able to get to that really quickly. I don't have the commute home, et cetera, et cetera. And for law students, it oftentimes means, well, I can steal that additional hour, additional 2 hours. And at some point, for law students, it's diminishing returns. You just can only learn so much in a given day. And for the rest of us, for our colleagues, for those of us who are working to support students, we also need to make that transition. Everything that Janet was talking about. We need to make the time for our family. We need to make the time to relax, to have that decent meal. And I know, as I've spoken about this before and said the hard stops, we get a lot of nod-alongs. Yeah, it's a good idea. But we actually have to be practicing it. We can't just be saying it to each other. So if it's 5 o'clock for you and it's not rocket science that you're doing or brain surgery or performing, stop the day as if you were getting up into your car and driving home, because that's the end of your day, and make that transition so you still have the well-being, the self-care, all the items that Janet mentioned and that much more, and that you're really taking care of yourself, particularly as we get into the colder weather and find ourselves perhaps indoors a little bit more and just kind of struggling for that fresh air and that exercise and everything else. Really, really important that we double down on taking care of ourselves during this time.
And the more that we can model this for our students, and the more if they can learn and integrate this may be the greatest lesson that they get out of law school, right? And if they're able to take that resilience and that self-resourcefulness into the legal profession, then we actually really will have learned the great lessons of this pandemic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I love that hashtag. It's hard to do a hard stop with you guys. I could keep talking with you. But yes, it's been a real gift to talk to both of you. And I appreciate you taking the time today to be here with us. Thank you for watching. And please go ahead and like and share this video and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on new episodes. And information on how to stay connected to the commission will be found in the notes. Thank you very much for watching.